Here we go. Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. Chase Sr. here with you, and we have some breaking news on this Monday, May 19th of 2025, as the Philadelphia Eagles and head coach Nick Sirianni have agreed to a multi-year contract extension. Prior to this, Sirianni was one of the lowest paid head coaches in the National Football League, but after making it to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, and after Philadelphia came through with one of the most impressive and dominant Super Bowl performances in the history of the National Football League as the Birds beat down on the Kansas City Chiefs, I imagine Nick Sirianni, on top of getting a lot of security as far as the years, is getting a huge pay upgrade with this contract as well. The Eagles issuing a statement upon letting us know that they have locked up their head coach by saying this, and this statement from Eagles owner Jeffrey Lurie: as an organization, we have always strived to create a championship culture of sustained success. Nothing is more important to fostering such an environment than having tremendous leadership. Nick Sirianni has embodied everything we were looking for in a head coach since we hired him 4 years ago. His authentic style of leadership, football intelligence, passion for the game, and growth mindset have helped to bring out the best in our team. I am excited for what the future holds for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think that statement right there is very telling from Jeffrey Lurie, who is not just one of the best and most successful and smartest owners in the National Football League, but across all of professional sports. And my goodness, how far Sirianni has come from that disaster of an opening press conference where he fumbled that and he admitted it, to what he said to his team with the viral clips and what he said to the media about having to grow the flowers all the way back in the day in year 1 in 2021. Congratulations to Nick Sirianni, one of the best head coaches in the National Football League, and a great move for Philadelphia. A lot to talk about here on the show, but before we continue to push forward with this breaking news, this is why you subscribe to the channel, because when breaking news goes down, we are always here for the real ones. I'm Chase Sr. Lock us in right here on Eagles Now. We're 502 people away from 121,000 subscribers. My thoughts on this move: this is a no-brainer for Philadelphia. The Eagles, prior to Sirianni's arrival in 2021, after that Doug Peterson era, which was successful with the Eagles bringing home their first Lombardi trophy, but then it got a little bit ugly as his regime progressed, were a little bit of a rocky ship. Philadelphia was a little bit of a mess before Sirianni came to Philadelphia. And so he becomes the head coach of this Eagles organization, and he has completely turned around this team. And he's been the head coach for a team that has become an absolute powerhouse among the 32 teams in the National Football League. He has the highest winning percentage among all active head coaches in the NFL, and he's off to one of the best starts of any head coach in the history of this great league. The Eagles have won 14 games twice in his 4 seasons, and they have been to 2 Super Bowls in those 4 years as well, while winning one back in February, taking down Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, accomplishing something that nobody thought was possible, and dominating the Chiefs in a way that nobody could have envisioned. And that Super Bowl win was one of the most dominant showings in the history of the NFL, and Nick Sirianni had his fingerprints all over that game. When I was in New Orleans covering the Eagles for that Super Bowl, I had a great feeling that the Eagles were going to win that game. So much so that I tweeted out on Saturday, prior to that Super Bowl, the Philadelphia Eagles will beat the Kansas City Chiefs in Super Bowl 59. And a big reason why I was so confident, a big reason why I had that prediction, was how the team approached that week, how they handled that week, how they walked around, how they spoke, but their level of focus, their attention to detail. It was a lot different from when they were there back in 2022 for Super Bowl 57. And all of the players had commended Nick Sirianni for how he approached that week, how he coached, how he prepared. And that entire coaching staff, they handled that week in a way that was very smart, very intelligent, that was very experienced, where Philadelphia learned from their previous failures, and it all started with this man right here in Nick Sirianni. Howie Roseman can be the best general manager in the game, and he is. Jeffrey Lurie is the best owner in the game. But when it comes down to Super Bowl prep and your preparations for that game, it starts and ends with the head coach. And the Eagles in that game against Kansas City thoroughly shit-pumped Kansas City, and they outcoached the Chiefs with their game plan led by Nick Sirianni. Howie Roseman doesn't have much of a say in the game plan. Howie Roseman doesn't have much of a say of what happens in that game. Nick Sirianni prepared beautifully. He coached beautifully. And yes, he had two great coordinators in Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. Sirianni played a role in their hirings, and those coordinators have to respond to the CEO head coach, that is Nick Sirianni. He was entering the final year of his contract, so it was only a matter of time before Sirianni and Philadelphia got this deal done. Jeffrey Lurie teased this during the NFL owners' meetings earlier this offseason that the Eagles were going to hash out a contract, and Nick Sirianni was going to continue to be one of the faces of this organization for the foreseeable future. Pretty crazy that since coming to Philadelphia in 2021, he has won about 80% of his games. And after that introductory press conference, nobody thought there was a chance that he was going to become a top 5 head coach in the NFL. He's become that, and you can make the argument he's a top 3 head coach in the NFL. A lot of people like to rip Sirianni and discredit him. They like to question him with what he's done and what he does since he doesn't call plays. And they want to say, what does he do on game days? He doesn't call plays. He can't be elite. Well, guess what? Bill Belichick doesn't call plays. Nor did Nick Saban. Mike Tomlin doesn't call plays. Jim and John Harbaugh, they don't call plays. Dan Campbell doesn't call plays. Dan Quinn doesn't call plays. There's a whole host of coaches, current and former head coaches, who don't call plays. They still had a lot of success in the National Football League. Calling plays doesn't make you an elite head coach. Being a CEO head coach has a lot of advantages. Nick Sirianni has developed a winning culture. Players absolutely love him. He manages the game very well, manages the locker room very well. And I think there's a good balance with how he carries himself. He is a player-friendly head coach, and I think that's important in today's era. But he's not afraid to get after you, push you to be better, and hold you accountable. There has to be a little bit of both. And I think that Sirianni deserves a lot more credit than what he's given for player development. Nearly every player who is a marquee player on this team has had a career year with Nick Sirianni as the head coach. He's also been able to develop coaches and already has an impressive coaching tree. Think about what he's done with assistants who have become head coaches and just coaches who have gone elsewhere to get better roles. And for a young coach to have the coaching tree that he has already, that's pretty impressive. And his personality, he is the perfect fit for Philadelphia. A little bit rough around the edges, definitely very intense. He can get emotional, but he understands how to deal with the nuances and the pressure of the city, some of the outrage that can come from the fan base, and some of the successes that are worth celebrating. He's able to really handle that, I think, in a perfect way. The fiery Italian, perfect for the city of brotherly love. The worst year that the Eagles have had under his tutelage was in 2023, when there was that late season collapse, when the Eagles lost 6 of 7 games to end the year. The Eagles still won double-digit games in that year. I think that, too, is pretty telling. Something of note as well is how functional and stable this Eagles organization is, and how there really is a concrete foundation with how this Eagles organization is run. And that goes from the owner and Jeffrey Lurie to the general manager and Howie Roseman to the head coach and Nick Sirianni. That is something that I have seen and noticed firsthand being around this team. And when you compare the structure of this Eagles organization and the success that they have had to other teams across the NFL, a lot of organizations aren't blessed to have that structure from owner to GM to head coach. Sirianni is a part of that. This is a collective show with how the Eagles like to run their operations. And another underrated skill for Sirianni, I think, is his ability to have a great relationship with Howie Roseman. And this is something definitely that I've seen at the Super Bowl, more so, though, at the NFL Combine. They are always together. They are always getting along. They are always operating as a tandem. The owner can only do so much. But when it comes to scouting, developing, coaching the team, it's Howie Roseman and it's Nick Sirianni that are really leading that charge. And it's not always easy for a head coach to get along seamlessly with a general manager, especially a GM who's as powerful as Howie, a general manager who has the ego of Howie, a general manager who's been as successful as Howie. There aren't a lot of GMs who are famous in the National Football League. Howie Roseman is a famous general manager. And him and Howie Roseman, they're in lockstep one another. And I think that structure of this organization, that cohesion, has been very important to the Eagles having so much success. And Sirianni himself, he's confident in his abilities. He, too, has a little bit of an ego. And so Howie Roseman deserves a lot of credit for how he has that kinship with Sirianni as well. Sirianni, I think, makes Howie better, pushes him to improve, and Howie does the same thing for Sirianni. And going back to what Sirianni has accomplished here, year one in a rebuild, the Eagles go 9-8, and they make it to the playoffs. Remember how ugly things were early in the year? That's from planting the flowers to having that awful introductory press conference. The Eagles got off to a slow start. But Nick Sirianni deserves a lot of credit. He started off calling plays. He realized that the Eagles needed to adjust, adapt, evolve, and make changes. What did the Eagles do? They went from being a pass-happy offense, with him calling the plays, to becoming a more balanced offense, and he relegated play-calling duties to Shane Steichen. Eagles turned it around. They made the playoffs, and down the stretch, they're one of the hottest teams in the NFL. Year two, they go 14-3, number one seed in the NFC. They make it to the Super Bowl. Nick Sirianni has won 2 NFC Championship game appearances. That's pretty impressive. And then in 2023, the late season collapsed. The Eagles started 10-1. They finished 11-6. For as dysfunctional as the ending was to the 2024 season, them losing 6 of 7. The heat that was on Sirianni, again, think about how hard it is to win double-digit games in the NFL, let alone in a year where you lose 6 of your final 7 games. But then the Eagles rebound off of that. Sirianni's seat, it was hot. A lot of people wanted him canned after 2023. There wasn't any head coach in the NFL that had more pressure on him than Sirianni because of the collapse, the level of talent for Philadelphia, all of the buzz about him not getting along with Jalen Hurts. What do the Eagles do? They respond with another 14-3 season. They win the NFC crown once again, and they beat the Kansas City Chiefs thoroughly, and they win the Super Bowl. Sirianni also deserves credit for this. The Eagles have hit on a lot of players in the NFL draft. Sirianni came up as a player in college. He's then come up as a coach who has been a coordinator and a position coach. And I think that is reflected with how he's able to get along with players, but how he's been able to develop players as well, and how players have been able to be maximized under his watch. But the Eagles hitting on the draft time and time again is also because Nick Sirianni has a really good eye for talent. They have developed the heck out of players. And it allows you to be a consistent, sustainable winner. Because when you hit on players in the NFL draft, they are cost-controlled assets. You have so much talent. You have so much depth. And players want to be and play for the Philadelphia Eagles because partially of Sirianni. A lot has been made of this Hurts-Sirianni relationship. I think they put that to bed after last year. They are both alphas. They are both cutthroat competitors, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So congratulations to Nick Sirianni. I'm glad that he's here to stay. I said after the 2023 season, I want him back because I'm a believer in him, and obviously that has not changed. That is enhanced with the Eagles winning the Super Bowl last year. And if the Eagles can go out there and have success again in 2025, given how hard this schedule is, it's just another impressive accomplishment for Sirianni. I want to leave you with this. Nick Sirianni is a top blank head coach in the NFL. I'm going top 5. You let me know down in the comment section right now. And if you want an Eagles jersey, looking ahead to the 2025 season, among all channels at Chat Sports, we've been one of the most successful in selling Eagles jerseys here at the company. It'll take you to Fanatics. If you use that link, Fanatics will know that Chat Sports, Chase Senior, and Eagles Now sent you all types of different jerseys available, current and former players, Kelly Green, white, midnight green, black, whatever you need. Fanatics has you covered. And if you want something other than a jersey, you can still use that link down below. Nick Sirianni, here to stay. Go Birds.